There are questions we rarely voice aloud, yet they echo in the quiet corners of our minds. Is someone we love nearing the end of their journey? How can we recognize the subtle signs when the body, the mind, and the spirit begin to prepare for a final transition? Louise Hay often reminded us, the body speaks if we only learn to listen, not in terms of predicting exact dates, but through whispers, gestures, and small transformations that reveal a profound inner shift. Science tells us that aging is not just a matter of physical decline. Neurobiology shows how the brain gradually reduces certain activities, conserving energy while memories and emotional processing remain heightened. Mystics, from Edgar Cayce to Sylvia Browne, have long suggested that this stage is a quiet preparation of the soul, a subtle alignment with what lies beyond the material plane. We will explore 7 signs an elder might be in their final year, with the calm precision of science and the quiet reverence of spiritual insight. Each sign is a window into a delicate dance between body, mind, and spirit. The first sign is often the most subtle, yet the most profound, a gradual loss of vitality. This is not simple tiredness. It is a diminishing of the life force that once propelled movement, curiosity, and daily routines. Louise Hay described it as an emptying of energy, a gentle slowing down, almost like a river finding still waters after its long journey. An elder may wake later, walk slower, or fall asleep more easily. Simple tasks may take longer, and there may be a calmness in speech and gestures that was never there before. Physiology explains part of this. Mitochondria, the energy powerhouses of our cells, decline naturally with age, and chronic energy conservation becomes a biological instinct. Yet beyond the biology, mystics have long observed this slowing as a preparation of the soul. Edgar Cayce, known as the sleeping prophet, spoke of the body as a vessel gradually allowing the soul to disengage from worldly concerns, creating space for reflection, resolution, and final alignment. This sign is not alarming. It is a quiet invitation to presence. Caregivers and family members can respond with gentleness, slower walks, less pressure for daily tasks, and an acceptance that energy is shifting from outward activity toward inner reflection. The second sign is detachment, a sudden ease in letting go of objects, clothing, books, or keepsakes. It is not carelessness or forgetfulness. Rather, it is a conscious, sometimes joyful release, a natural preparation for departure. Louise Hay associated this behavior with unconscious wisdom. It is as if the individual instinctively creates order in their world, closing chapters that have already been lived. Gifts are offered, letters prepared, closets emptied, not out of despair, but from a deep inner knowing that the time to release is near. Psychology explains some of this through cognitive and emotional recalibration. As mortality becomes more present, priorities shift. Attachment to material things naturally wanes, replaced by the desire for connection and meaning. Mystically, this has been seen as a preparation for the soul's journey. Tesla, for instance, in his later years, reportedly detached from worldly ambitions, focusing instead on visions and ideas that transcended physical reality. Similarly, ancient wisdom traditions describe the renunciant stage of life, where letting go is not a loss, but a conscious alignment with higher purpose. Signs of detachment may also appear in conversation. Elders might reminisce more, recount past stories, or reflect on loved ones who have passed. This is not confusion, but a reconnection with roots, a way of aligning with the totality of a lived life. The third sign is physical and instinctual, a change in appetite. Elders may lose interest in food, refuse large portions, or select lighter, simpler meals. What was once a favorite dish may go untouched. Louise Hay observed this as a natural instinct. The body begins to conserve energy, focusing on what truly sustains it. Scientific studies support this, showing that metabolism, digestion, and nutritional processing slow with age. It is not always about illness. Sometimes it is a serene, physiological preparation for transition. Spiritually, this aligns with the mystic idea that the body becomes a quiet vessel for inner work. The soul, free from the demands of constant external nourishment, can focus on reflection, reconciliation, and preparation for departure. Ancient wisdom texts often describe this stage as a lightening of the vessel, allowing the mind and spirit to ascend in readiness for what comes next. Caregivers may feel concerned, but sensitivity is key. Encourage hydration and simple nutrition, but respect the body's instinct. Forcing food or creating pressure disrupts the natural rhythm. Instead, presence, calm observation, and gentle company are far more nurturing than any meal. At this stage of life, something profound begins to happen, often so subtly that even close family members may miss it. The desire to acquire, to compete, to plan endlessly for tomorrow fades like a tide receding after a long, restless day. For years, the mind may have run on momentum. What's next, what's needed, what's left undone. But suddenly, there is a stillness. Physiology offers one explanation. As dopamine sensitivity decreases with age, so does a reward feedback loop that drives pursuit. The brain, quite literally, begins to conserve its motivational fuel. And yet, beneath the biology, there's something else. Louise Hay often spoke of this quieting as a deep acceptance of life's completeness. She saw it not as apathy, but as a form of spiritual maturity, the soul turning inward, content not with possession, but with presence. In her seminars, she would say, "When the wanting stops, the being begins." Mystics from many traditions echo this. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes a final stage of the seeker's journey as virajaya, detachment not from love, but from craving. To release the hunger for more is to return to balance, to the inner source. In those nearing life's end, this state often arrives unannounced. An elderly person may suddenly express that they have everything they need. They might give away treasured items or show little interest in old ambitions. Science calls it motivational decline. Spirit calls it peace. Time begins to lose its sharp edges. Days blur together, not from confusion, but from a strange serenity. What was once tightly scheduled becomes fluid. Morning and evening merge, as if the mind is loosening its grip on the clock. Neurology suggests this comes from reduced prefrontal activity, the brain's executive region for sequencing and planning. But those who sit with the dying often describe something more mysterious, a temporal drift, where consciousness seems to step partly outside linear time. Louise Hay once remarked that the soul does not measure life in hours or years, but in lessons and love. As the body slows, the soul reorients from chronology to essence. Moments are felt, not counted. It's not uncommon for elders in this stage to recall events from decades ago as if they happened yesterday. Neuroscientists link this to memory consolidation patterns, but spiritual teachers see it as the soul's final review, a gentle gathering of its story before moving on. Sylvia Browne once said that near death, people walk with one foot in each world. In this softened state, that saying feels literal. There's no fear here, only a quiet rhythm, as though time itself exhales. It may begin with simple choices. Fewer phone calls, shorter visits, declining social invitations. The world grows quieter not because of isolation, but because attention is turning inward. This withdrawal is often mistaken for depression, but in many cases, it is not sadness, it is completion. Physiologically, the body is conserving energy as systems begin to slow. But spiritually, something far more significant is occurring. Louise Hay described this as the sacred cocoon stage. a time when the soul weaves around itself a stillness, preparing for transformation, like a caterpillar instinctively finding its resting place. This stage signals that a deeper metamorphosis is near. Many mystics have recognized this pattern. Edgar Cayce compared it to the evening of the soul, where consciousness begins to expand beyond the narrow walls of identity. Tesla, though not spiritual in the traditional sense, believed that energy never disappears. It only changes form, redistributing itself into the field. In this stage, one might find beauty in small moments. The movement of light, the texture of a blanket, the quiet hum of breath. There is less doing, more being. This retreat is not a rejection of life. It is life completing its own sentence. This is the most subtle and perhaps the most beautiful of all signs. A sense of lightness begins to appear. Not physical, but something in the atmosphere around the person seems to glow. Caregivers often notice that those near life's end seem to radiate calm, even joy. Medical staff speak of the peace phase, a neurological settling as fear hormones drop and endorphins rise. But Louise Hay offered a more luminous interpretation. When you no longer resist life, you stop resisting death. What remains is love. This lightening is both biological and spiritual. Brain scans show a decline in the amygdala's threat response, reducing fear and anxiety. At the same time, many report vivid dreams, encounters with loved ones who have passed, or sensations of warmth and expansion. To the rational mind, these are neurochemical effects of the dying process. To the intuitive heart, they are glimpses of return. The veil thins, and what was once invisible becomes almost tangible. Mystics describe this as the moment of translucence, the soul preparing to rejoin the greater field of consciousness. Louise Hay would simply call it coming home. Across all these signs, slowing, softening, releasing, quieting, a pattern emerges. The body is not failing. It is translating. It moves from the language of survival to the language of surrender. Louise Hay believed that death is not an ending, but a continuation of consciousness on another frequency. She wrote, "We leave the classroom only when the lesson is complete." Science cannot yet measure this transition, though studies on near-death experiences reveal consistent reports of awareness persisting even after cardiac arrest. In 2023, a series of EEG recordings found bursts of gamma activity, waves associated with consciousness, occurring moments after physical death. It suggests that awareness may not cease instantly, but gradually dissolves into a larger field. That field mystics have long said is love itself. Cayce called it the creative force. Tesla, the core vibration of the universe. Hay called it the infinite mind. In the end, all three were pointing toward the same truth. Energy changes form, but never disappears. Love transforms, but never ends. Perhaps this is what Louise Hay meant when she said that every ending is a beginning in disguise. Each soul writes its final chapter not in fear, but in completion. Each breath a whisper of gratitude. If you've ever watched someone you love move through these signs, you know it is not just their passage. It's a lesson in grace. The slowing, the quieting, the release. It's life returning to source, to silence, to balance. As the Buddhists say, the lotus blooms as it sinks. As Louise Hay said, we are eternal expressions of life itself. Maybe the true sign that someone is nearing the end is not decline at all, but becoming light enough to rise. And when that happens, there is nothing left to fear, only love changing form.